Thank you. All right, good evening, everyone. We good? Almost. Sound check? That's better. Okay. No?
Town of Wenham. Thank you. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, there we go. All right, start over. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Town of Wenham Select Board meeting for August 11th, 2026. It is 6:31. We will call the meeting to order. In attendance this evening, there is myself, Deirdre Perotti.
Gary Cheeseman, Peter Clay,
Ben Timon.
And do we have Phineas on?
Is in the audience. I just promoted him. I think he has to accept it, but he is here.
All right, we'll give Finn just a moment.
Hey, Finn, can you hear us?
Finn, if you're able, say you're here.
All right, were you able to hear me?
Yes.
All right, yes, I'm present, thanks.
Thank you. All right, this is an in-person meeting this evening. As a convenience to the public, we are also broadcasting on HWCam, and we have Zoom links available. The main topic this evening will be the iron rail presentation, but first, just a few orders of business. First, we will have public comment if anyone wishes to address the board. We have 2 minutes per person. You may speak once, 10 minutes total. Would anyone like to come to address the board? Please, okay, I saw you first, sir. Come on up and identify yourself, please, before your comment.
Certainly. My name is David Miller. I'm a resident of the Boulders, where I live at 12 Wallace Drive.
Thank you.
And we just came from a meeting of the Open Space and Recreation Committee in which they had a discussion about Pingree Park and what's to become of that. They're going forward with a survey that includes pickleball as an option for what is an outcome at Pingree Park. And I'd like to go on record, again, representing the Boulders, that the Boulders residents oppose we good?
Yeah.
The Boulders residents oppose and will oppose pickleball, a skate park, or any similar noise-making activity at Pingree Park. Our position has been carefully considered and is not intended as an opening point for negotiation. The supporting evidence for not citing these activities at this location is clear and well established. It is based on data and expert consensus. Our position will not change based on arguments regarding need or potential benefits. And citing a couple of facts which objectify our very much emotional at times concern is the Wenham bylaw on noise, which the critical sentence reads, "No person shall operate or cause to be operated any source of sound in a manner that creates a sound level which exceeds 70 decibels or 10 decibels above ambient, whichever is lower when measured at the property boundary of the receiving land use." And we mentioned that residents of the Boulders are within 100 feet of the courts, but actually the property line is much closer than that still. So I also quote from a Weston and Sampson study, which maybe many of you have seen, which was done for Wellesley, and that report shows that the impact of a plastic pickleball on a paddle can register between 70 and 100 decibels from 100 feet away. So that exceeds Wenham's noise bylaw. They go on further to recommend the court should not be located any closer than 800 feet from a residence. So also would point out that in going forward with the survey to, which includes many outcomes, one of which is pickleball, they run the risk of disappointing residents mightily because ultimately there will have to be a survey in which the noise impacts of a court-cited location at Pingree Park is assessed. That will ultimately fail because it's 100 feet or less. And
Good,
so
that's time, sir. I'll just ask you to wrap up.
Okay, the survey should be performed in advance, not after. The survey on noise, that is, should be performed before, not after.
Thank you very much for your comments. Yes, sir?
Bob Frischella, 13 Wallace Drive, representing the Boulders. I'd just like to make one comment that at the July 7th meeting, a question was asked by the Select Board how many courts do we have? And I don't recall the answer, but I don't believe it was accurate. The OSRC just did a survey and indicated that there are 20 courts, but that doesn't include the indoor courts at the rec center and the courts at Gordon College, which are also available to Wenham residents. The national average for the number of courts is about 1 court per 2,000 residents. So at roughly 26 courts, we exceed that by a factor of 4. So just wanted to point that out to the select board.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir?
Dennis Markowitz, 15 Wallace Drive, the Boulders. We just heard a very nice account of the planned survey. I think that there are things that should be included in the survey if it goes ahead. Namely, it should be explicit and state the distance to nearby residences are very close compared to any acceptable recognized standards for pickleball noise, and include a question for the survey answers. Would you play on a pickleball court knowing that the noise seriously impacts the quality of life of the nearby neighbors? That should be included in the survey so that people understand explicitly what they're signing up for. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else? All right, see anyone on Zoom?
No one on Zoom.
Okay. And just as a reminder for everyone, the Select Board is not permitted to discuss or deliberate on items that are raised during public comment but are not on the agenda for this evening. So we will most certainly return to this topic at a later meeting. Okay. All right, we will move on to Town Administrator's update. Steve?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one brief update this evening. If the board and public remember, at our last meeting, we had a presentation from Joe Pesamato and the Historic District Committee regarding the Historic District Design Guidelines project that's underway, and a study that was funded through town meeting last year. And as a continuation of that, the Historic District is meeting, the HDC is meeting Wednesday night. That's tomorrow, August 12th at 6 p.m. So the public is encouraged to attend. There is a Zoom link available on our website. It is posted like any other public meeting on the calendar. But if you have any trouble finding it, feel free to reach out to myself or anyone in the Select Board's office. We can point you in the right direction. But your participation is encouraged to help give some feedback as we work through this process. Thank you.
Is that all?
That's all.
Okay. All right, I just have one brief thing, and I just wanted to mention that we had a very lovely raising of the Purple Heart flag about a little over a week ago. It was a wonderful ceremony. Very happy that we have adopted this in Wenham. I look forward to the signs going up. We received a very nice proclamation to be framed, and I would love if we can frame it and have it hanging in the lobby. I think it really looks lovely and a wonderful thing for the town. Appreciate that Gary spoke, Dean Peterson, our veterans agent. It was really lovely. And that's all for me. Gary?
Nothing here.
Nothing.
Peter? Ben?
Just briefly to pick up on the Open Space and Recreation Committee meeting, and this, as Madam Chair said, this isn't for us to deliberate or prejudge on any of the merits of that, but I just did want to point out that I attended that virtual meeting this afternoon and felt that that this is a very positive collaborative process that is taking place involving residents of the Boulders, Kate Mallory, and many others, including members of that committee. So I thought it was, a real step in the right direction in terms of trying to, come together and weigh the different factors. I would also just point out that surveys in general have never in this town been binding. They're a way to get additional data points that the decision makers, ultimately possibly our board, would be taking on board, along with all the other pieces of information that have been submitted, such as noise studies and the like. So I just wanted to commend everyone involved in that discussion today, because I think it's heading in a good direction.
Great. Thank you, Ben. Finn, do you want to add anything?
No, I don't have anything. Thank you very much, though.
Thank you. All right, we will move on to the consent agenda. I'm going to read the items. We have item A, appointment of Michael Burke to the position of firefighter, effective August 11, 2026 through June 30, 2027. And we have the appointment of our election officers for a term effective September 1, 2026 through August 31, 2027. But I would like to give the chief, there you are, a moment to speak to the appointment of our firefighter. Chief, please.
You want to appoint him first, or?
It's up to you.
Because we'd like to pin him up here at the...
Okay, you want to wait for the pinning? All right, do we have a motion?
I move to approve items A and B as printed in the evening's consent agenda.
Second.
All right, we'll move to a vote. Gary?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Finn?
Aye.
And Deirdre, aye. Motion passes. And Chief, go ahead and do the honors.
Well, thank you for having us here tonight. First of all, I'd like to thank Assistant Town Administrator Joe Pesamato for assisting us with this whole interview process. And Michael, if you could come up. So we're here tonight to appoint one of our call firefighters to the position of full-time firefighter. And after a lengthy interview process, with an interview board consisting of myself, Assistant Town Administrator Joe Pesamato, Captain John Joyce, Captain Anthony Nickus, and Deputy Chief Dan Sullivan of the Hamilton Fire Department, we chose Michael Burke as the candidate that would be best suited for the full-time firefighter position. We were fortunate to have external and internal members apply for this position. And Michael has been a member of the department for 4 years. He is a certified Massachusetts EMT and is firefighter 1-2 certified through the Massachusetts Call Volunteer Firefighting Academy. And Michael also has a BS in criminal justice, wrong side, and MS in Homeland Security. I am excited to start working with Michael and welcome aboard. If you would like to pin up.
Doesn't matter which way.
Doesn't matter.
Face all the cameras, yeah.
We practiced
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Michael Burke. Been here 4 years.
Go to the microphone.
No, I just appreciate everything, and I'm looking forward to being an asset to the town, and I'll do my best. I can give you that. So, thank you again.
Thank you very much. Congratulations. Wonderful addition. Anybody else? Chief, are you good? You're all set? All right. Thank you.
Deidre, I want to say thank you to all the volunteers.
Yeah, I'm about to. Just giving them a moment. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right.
Congratulations.
Just letting the family and the firefighters depart. All right, before we move on, I just want to also thank all of our election officers who have volunteered to step forward. This is a hugely important role in these times that we are living in. I see many, many, many familiar names who I know have done this before, and we really appreciate it. This is an incredible service to the town as well as the country. Please do your civic duty and come out and vote when the time comes. All right. Next, we have our town clerk, Diane Bucco. Presentation and potential votes regarding the election procedures for fall 2026 season. Diane?
Thank you. Thank you all for letting me speak to you today. I know it's a very busy meeting, and that was very exciting for Michael. But I do need to bring some information to you and to the public about the September 1st state primary plans. First of all, thank you for the appointments of the election officers. Many of them have been doing it for a long time. We have some new people, which is exciting as well. Always looking for more, and you'll see why we need more in a moment. So the Board of Registrar has recommended that we utilize 2 polling places for the fall 2026 election season for a few reasons that I'm happy to go into if you have the time, or I could just blow right by it. Do you have time? I don't want to take up too much
Go ahead.
time.
No,
Okay.
go ahead.
So in the state primary, we are 2 precincts for all the state elections, but in the primary, we have multiple ballots. And so if you're going to have 1,500 voters voting in precinct 1 and 1,500 voters voting in precinct 1A with Democrats and Republicans in one small space, there's a lot of possibilities of some errors. So we felt it best to use 2 locations, and I'm asking that we use Town Hall for precinct 1 and the Wenham Museum, which has said that was okay, for precinct 1A. In November, the ballot, at this point, I think it was 9 ballot questions. We are expecting a multi-page ballot, not a front and back, but a front, front, and back ballot, which, as far as I know, the state has never dealt with yet. So to spread that out, it will take longer each person to vote. We need more space. That's why the two separate locations would be great. So what I need to move forward for that is to have the board approve that by moving to add the museum as the polling location for precinct 1A voters for the fall 2026 elections. So if that is something you want to vote on, would be wonderful. Or any comments on it?
Nope, sounds like a good plan, Diane. Thank you.
Okay.
We have a motion?
What motion are we reading?
Well, you want to do
The
something
third
like
one?
move to
Yes, start with
add-
the third.
Okay. I move that the select board vote to add the Wenham Museum as the polling location for precinct 1A voters for the fall elections in 2026.
Gary seconds.
All right, we'll have a vote. Ben?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Deirdre, yes. Gary?
Yes.
And Finn?
Finn votes aye.
Thank you. All right, Diane, first one passes.
I'll pass on the warrants so you can sign them as I move on.
Okay.
Multitask. Secondly, I also need the select board to move to delegate the administrative responsibility for the assignment of police details to the chief of police for the 2026 elections. Sounds very odd. It's what we normally do. However, it's written in the Votes Act that the select board has the authority to administer the police details, and we think it's better if you would authorize the police chief and myself to do that for the fall elections.
So, do you want a motion?
I would love one, unless you have questions.
Any questions, guys?
Nope, go ahead.
I move that the select board delegate the administrative responsibility for the assignment of police officers to the chief of police for 2026 elections.
Gary seconds.
All right, we'll move to vote. Ben?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Deirdre, yes.
Gary, yes.
Finn?
Finn votes aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you
On
very
to the
much.
next.
Lastly, the Votes Act also requires that in-person early voting for town is to be set for town hall hours. But with voters, with a town municipality under 5,000 voters, you can limit or reduce some of those hours, which is what we have done before, once the Board of Registrars recommends it. So the vote for this would have to come 20 days before early voting starts, which I missed. So I apologize for that and for myself. So early voting for the primary will be full town hall hours, 8 to 4:30, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Tuesday, 8 to 7. But I would, however, like to ask that the select board approve reducing those hours by 6.5 hours to allow the town clerk to come into town hall at 8, set up early voting to start at 9, close early voting at 4 to allow the town clerk to shut it down by 4:30. So if that is amenable to you, the select board just has to accept the suggested hours for in-person early voting for the November 3rd state election.
I just have a question.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
yes, I'm
how
sure
does
that-
how does the notice period fit into that? Like, we can still do that
We can do that for November.
on November?
So, yes, I can't do it, with the Votes Act, it was 20 days before the election to vote to change the polling place. And I read 20 days before the election to do the early voting hours, but it's 20 days before the start of early voting, which is
Great.
a week behind. So I'm sorry, and I said that really fast, trying to get it in really
It's
quick.
okay. It's
Sorry.
all good.
I'll get that one then. Move that the Select Board accept the suggested hours for in-person early voting for the November 3rd, 2026 elections as presented.
Second.
All right, Ben?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Deirdre, yes?
Gary, yes?
Finn?
Finn votes aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Great. I want to thank you very much for squeezing me in. I want to remind everybody to vote. Early voting does start August 22nd. That's a Saturday, 9 to 1, and then regular town hall hours for that week.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diane.
Night.
Appreciate it. Okay, next we have item D, discussion and potential vote to approve the Affordable Housing Trust Action Plan contract with Metropolitan Area Council, the MAPC. And I believe we have Margaret presenting. Do we?
Yeah, she's here for any questions.
Oh, okay.
but Maybe just give a quick overview of
Madam
that.
Chair, did we do the fourth motion? We did sign the
We
warrant,
signed it.
but,
I thought that meant we did not need to vote.
okay, I'm not
Is
sure.
that correct?
That I don't know.
Maybe we should, just to be
You
sure.
want to go ahead?
I'll move that the Select Board approve the signing of the September 1st, 2026 state primary warrant.
Gary seconds.
Okay, Ben?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Deirdre, yes?
Gary, yes?
Finn?
Finn votes aye.
Thank you. All right, that passes as well, just in case. Okay, Margaret?
Hi, Margaret Hoffman, Town Planner. This is a request for you to endorse the contract with MAPC, the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, who are going to be our consultants on the Affordable Housing Trust's new action plan. Their action plan expired, I think, in 2025. So they need to get a new plan done. MAPC has given us a $25,000 technical assistance grant. The entire project will end up costing $73,800. So the town will be putting in the $48,800. We had approved $50,000 for this project at town meeting in 2025, I think. So the funds are there to be expended, and the MAPC has given us their scope of work. The contract's been approved by town council. Everything is pretty much in place. But because it's technically over $50,000 for the entire project, Steve felt it needed your approval. But if you have any questions about the scope or anything, yeah.
Does anyone want to see it on the screen?
Do you want a copy?
Questions about it?
Fully read it.
Fully read it?
Yep.
Excellent.
I'm on it.
You're, okay, well, I have one comment. I just want to comment that this coincides very nicely with the master plan, that housing was very much discussed during the process of creating the master plan. And Joanne's here tonight, too. And this, I just want to make sure that these two documents nicely dovetail together. We have in, I believe, Chapter 3 of the master plan, goals number 2 and 3 are specifically about housing, and I just want to make sure that that gets taken into account as they move forward with the process that's described in the document.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Anybody else?
I'll move to approve the Affordable Housing Trust Action Plan contract with the Metropolitan Area Council, Planning Council.
Peter seconds.
All right, we'll move to vote. Gary?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Deirdre, yes. And Finn?
Finn votes aye.
Thank you. All right, contract is approved. Thank you very much, Margaret. and Affordable Housing Trust. Okay, next we have item E, discussion and potential vote on a recommendation to the planning board regarding the timing of the required decommissioning bond for the iron rail ground-mounted solar project as a condition of the project site plan approval. And we have Kate Mallory, our land use director, with us this evening to explain that to us.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me tonight. Go to the next slide, please. So as you all know, it passed at town meeting through your select board that at the iron rail, where the current softball field is, we are putting in a solar array. Right now, through the planning board, this project is going through site plan approval. And during site plan approval, what we normally do is we recommend a decommissioning bond for projects like these. So basically what that means is that if the company, in this case Select, goes out of business at any time during the project, there is a bond in place that would be able to get the system safely out of our area in town. And so the planning board is asking some advice on this because this has some financial implications to the town and also liability to the town. So like the slide says, there are two competing objectives. So if we do the bond earlier, say year one, we're going to lose some of the project financial benefits and long-term savings, and it's going to be a higher project cost. If we do the bond later, we'll have greater savings, but we'll have less protection if the company does go out of business. Next slide, please. So I was able to get this from the vendor, Select, and basically what it shows is they, in the contract that we have now, that we have not signed, they have the decommissioning bond starting at year 23, which I heard is quite normal in the industry. They did give me the cost of the bond from year 1 to year 20. So you can see on the bottom, it goes from $70,000 for the life of, for the 25 years. At year 20, it would cost $10,000. So basically this means we would start at year, say 20, a decommissioning bond, and then that would go for the next 5 years of the project. Next slide, please. So I was thinking about a good way forward for this. Like I said, a lot of municipalities just take the 23 years, but I do really feel like the planning board is doing their due diligence and thinking if that's enough. So in the contract that we have now, we do have an early purchase option here, and I think that's very telling. Select told me that it would take approximately $150,000 to remove this system, and so my thought process was we want to make sure that the value of the system is at least $150,000, and then to me that would feel comfortable enough to start the bond around that time frame. So if you're looking at year 20, the $112,000, what that means is that we have the option at year 20 to purchase that system for $112,000 or fair market value, whichever is higher. To me, that was very telling because Select probably thinks this is the lowest amount. They won't tell us all of the data, but they think it's the lowest amount and they would sell it to us for that amount, or it could be worth more. Then I looked at year 15, and the value at $266,000 would well exceed the $150,000 decommissioning cost. Next slide. So basically, what I would say is if you required the bond at year 15, the estimated financial benefit of this system at that year is the estimated financial benefit right now, as we have it, is $760,000 for the system. And if we want to put in the bond at year 15, that would cost about $22,000, so less than $1,000 a year for that extra 8 years of protection. The other thing to consider is at year 15, that's really when the system starts to decline a bit. So the panels are a little bit older. The inverter has either been replaced by now or will need to be replaced, so there are some extra costs there. So that's why I kind of liked that the value was a little bit more at year 15. Also, the other thing is too that the infrastructure of these panels is very valuable because at year 15, 16, 17, there is an opportunity as technology changes and advances to put in higher powered panels. So in my mind, this is not just a 25-year contract. This is a contract where we are going to probably in 20 years re-up these panels and be making more financial benefit from them. So really what the planning board is asking is, what risk are you willing to take? And where would you like that where would you suggest that year of the decommissioning bond be placed?
Kate, my only comment on this is I'm not sure why the planning board isn't coming forward with a recommendation.
I think that they felt it wasn't in their scope as a board or committee because there were financial implications. You know what I'm trying to say.
We got it.
So there was a financial component to it and also a liability component. And so they felt that that was not in their scope as the planning board members, and therefore that was more of a select board scope.
Questions from the board?
Can we put the first slide with the prices over the years back up?
I have a question. I just want to make sure I understand what we're talking about here. This is that we think it might cost up to $150,000 in current U.S. dollars to remove the system if Select basically goes out of business and can't take it down themselves. What happens to the site and all of the infrastructure if that happens? Does it basically go to bankruptcy court and we have to decide if we're going to take ownership ourselves, or like what is the circumstance that would make it so that that there would actually be the requirement that we rip everything out of the ground?
There would be no requirement that we'd have to rip everything out of the ground. And so that's actually one of the benefits is if they go out of business, the way the contract is written, from what I understand, is that the system would stay there and that there is no bond there now that would remove the system. So it's actually a benefit for us to have the system. It would still be, generating revenue. We just want to make sure that we don't have a system there that is worth less than $150,000 if we do want to remove the system. So this is kind of like an extra protection.
So let's say just hypothetically that that Select goes out of business in year 12, and we did the 15-year decommissioning bond. So is it the case that if that happened, we would be faced with a choice of purchasing it, which we probably wouldn't want to do because of the high cost at year 12, dismantling it because we wouldn't have the bond in place yet at around $150,000, but maybe more with inflation, or letting it sit for 3 years until the decommissioning bond kicked in at year 15? Is that a fair?
From what I understand, we would own the system. So we could decide what we want to do. So we would take ownership of the system and start running it, basically.
Okay. But at year 15, we would, regardless of what this condition of the thing is, at year 15, a bond would be triggered that would fund a decommissioning, dismantling, if that's what the town decided to do.
Yes.
Okay. Or whatever year that kicks in.
Yes.
Whether it's 15, 20, or something else.
looking at the, essentially, you're getting $150,000 of insurance coverage. And from year one, that would cost you $70,000, which would be almost a 1 on 2 chances that there's going to be bumps down the line. So I think that's quite exorbitant to expect that, given that we have the option to purchase. Is that at set points to the lifespan, or just every year we'd have the option to purchase?
There are set points
Set
at the
points, right.
lifespan.
So I should think really the risks are on the far end, and so I'd go with, maybe the 20-year point, just a little bit, 10,000 over 150.
Let's start the bond at year 20.
Yes.
Yeah, that's reasonable to me. I mean, I was sort of on the fence between 15 or 20, but I don't have like a strong feeling of one of those against another, given the additional cost of 15. And it's all about weighing risk and trying to have a crystal ball, which none of us do.
And so I think most solar arrays, expect a lifespan are 20-plus years now anyhow. So if the company went out, we would still have the option to purchase and would have a functional system in place at that point, we'd expect.
Can I just ask somebody out there just to confirm what you just said? Bobby Knowles,
Yes,
is what Gary just said accurate?
as far as the longevity of the
Yeah.
system, they're
So-
actually more like 30 years. But all the contracts
Hold on, Bob, could you, yes, would you please? This is Bob Knowles, who is a member of the Wenham Climate Action and Sustainability Committee, and I'm happy to have you speak, but if you could do it at the microphone.
201 Main Street in Wenham. That's true. They last 30 years.
Wow.
All the contracts are 20, but then there's usually 3 5-year adders on the contract, so it goes up to 35 years.
So which would you choose, 15 or 20?
20.
Michelle, can you go to the other page, please? Bob, you would recommend 20?
I'd recommend 20.
Thank you for that.
Thanks.
Everyone comfortable with that? I feel comfortable with that. This seems like additional insurance on top of assurances that are already included in the contract as well. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Finn, any last comments, questions?
No, I think at that point, we're talking about a very small premium, so I'm not going to agonize over it.
Okay.
So I'll vote with you guys there.
All right.
So it looks like a motion to recommend might be in order, or do you need that for conveying to
I
the
think
planning?
What
move
would
to
you-
recommend
Yeah.
the 20-year bond, decommissioning bond?
Yes, please.
Second.
That the bond starts at year 20, Margaret Hoffman said.
So move that the select board recommend to the planning board that the decommissioning bond for the solar array project on Iron Rail begin at year 20.
Second.
Excellent, thank you. Ben?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Deirdre, yes. And Finn?
Finn votes aye.
Thank you. All right.
Margaret, please don't tell Ann that I, being critical of the planning board.
They'll never know, Peter. It's just between us. Bob, thank you very much for your input. Kate, thank you, but don't go anywhere.
Yep.
All right, we're going to pause for a moment and allow the Iron Rail Commission. If you'd like to sit in the front, you're welcome to also. But Lou, go ahead and call your group to order.
Thank you, Chair. I call this meeting of the Iron Rail Commission to order on August 11th, 2026. Members present include Natalie Kavanaugh, Erica Champa, Ted Batchelter, Andrew Waylett, and myself, Lou Randazzo.
All right, I'm just giving people a moment to leave the room. Thanks for coming this evening, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, and the main event this evening, update, discussion on next steps, and review of the project timeline for the Iron Rail property. We have a presentation by our Land Use Director, Kate Mallory, and assisted by our Town Administrator, Steve Poulos.
Thank you. So I'm going to just briefly kind of recap how we got here, and then Kate is going to take over and discuss the most recent working group that she led over the past few months. So, for folks that don't know, I think everyone here is familiar, so it's probably a little redundant saying it, but the Iron Rail is an 80-acre parcel on 91 Grapevine Road in Wenham. It has a building there that's about 65 years old. It was originally a brick gymnasium and dormitory that housed female mill workers between the dates of 1910 and 1954. Right now, the site houses our DPW facilities, our water facilities. We lease the dormitory that I just mentioned to tenants. So the Iron Rail Gymnastics is there, doggy daycare is there. We have some personal training and other smaller tenants that are in there. There is an older barn there that's utilized by the Boy Scouts and for storage by the Hamilton Wenham School District. There are soccer fields that's currently leased to the North Shore Soccer Association, and the town cemetery is also up on that site. So when I started, why was the study needed? So when I joined the town of Wenham in 22, so that's 4 or maybe almost 5 years ago. We were just coming, we're on the tail end of the pandemic, and it was a very hot topic as far as the rent collections, because a lot of the rent went unpaid through the pandemic, and it was something that the Finance Committee was very focused on, and whether the town should serve as a landlord, what are our recourses to collecting the rent checks if this was ever to happen again. Is this a best allocation of the town's resources to be a landlord to a facility like this, and also is it actually fiscally good for the town? Like, are we making money? Are we losing money? So that kind of started the process. Simultaneously, there was a master plan that was underway, and that highlighted some of the goals that the community has for itself, which are to expand the job base, the tax base. Right now, Wenham is primarily all single-family homes, generally on larger lots, and the master plan clearly said that housing diversity, different types of housing stock, denser housing was a priority for the town. To look at ways to expand our commercial base as well as for economic growth. And also there's also a strong proponent of open space, the promotion of trails and maintenance of existing open space in town, which this Iron Rail site does, has potential to do all of those things. So additionally, we looked at, the building is aging. Like I said, it's 60 plus years old now. We looked at what would it cost to just rehab the building and not make any changes. So there's any old building has functional obsolescence, so we wouldn't be looking to cure any of that, but we would just be looking to bring the building up to compliance and ADA standards and update the mechanical systems within the building. And we use the Hamilton project as an example of a similarly aged and similarly sized building, and their project was, I believe, well, I don't know what it was when the change orders are done, but when they finally went out and bid the project, I believe it came in about $8.7 million. Their original estimate was in about $6 million, so $6 million is what ended up in the study that we're talking about here tonight. So we also have, and so that highlighted that there's a significant cost inherent in keeping the building under town ownership. So It's something that would have to go on the town's capital plan, and the town would have to look for ways to pay that. The building is tax exempt, so it doesn't bring in any taxation. As I said, there are tenants there, so we bring in about $150,000 annually in rental income. But the estimated debt service on a $6 million capital need is in excess of $300,000 a year. So it falls short of just paying the debt service that would be needed to update the structure. So the town commissioned, and you can go ahead and go to the next slide. So with that in mind, the town commissioned Dodson and Flinker in July of '23 to do a highest and best use study to see, what to look at, not only to summarize or identify existing uses of the property and summarize them, but to also look at what are some options, other options that the town could look at for the site, and not just through the lens of what would be most financially advantageous to the community, but what would the community like to see as far as services there. So it took a pretty broad approach. We had a few public meetings, a public site walk, a large survey that took place from August to October in '23, and Dodson and Flinker, the vendor, kind of distilled that information and integrated it into a number of economics, Cambridge economics, the fiscal impact that was done for the master plan, financial analysis that was done of the iron rail itself under its current conditions, and also we had an appraisal report done by Bill Chance, who is an appraiser in the area, looking at what would some of these options bring as far as open market sale, if that's what the town was looking to do. The study was presented a number of options, which Kate is going to go into in hers, but those were presented to the town in another public hearing between February and March 25. There was a couple of hearings that were done. So this was brought back to the it kind of sat for the summer, and then it was brought back to the select board in September of 2025 when we started our town meeting planning in the run-up to the April 26th town meeting to see, whether this was what the board wanted to do, how it wanted to proceed, because, there is a certain timeline which Kate, again, is going to go into, because now we're in a very similar situation where now we're 1 year ahead of that. We're in August, but, basically September, where we're planning for town meeting, because there are a number of town meeting votes that would have to take place to do anything on that came out of the study, and then subsequently the working group. So the select board, we brought the study back up, we reviewed the options, they decided that they wanted a working group, and it was a relatively robust working group. How many members were on it?
25.
25 working group, of residents, committee members, board members, staff. So we had a bunch of input, and so they've worked over the past year to bring you what is ultimately the recommendation of the iron rail property. So with that, I'll hand it off to Kate, which ran the iron rail working group over the past number of months, like I mentioned, and she'll talk about the findings in more detail.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
We can skip through this and go to the slides, please. Here we go, next one. All right, so this working group was a 3-meeting process. So meeting 1 was basically explaining to the group why they were there and creating a decision-making criteria. So I'll explain that. Meeting 2.
I'm sorry, Kate. Hey, Steve.
Yeah.
Maybe we could cut the air conditioning. Everybody's putting their coat.
I can do it. Keep going. Keep going.
No, it's okay.
You got it?
I got it. Oh, I heard it turn off. Perfect, already worked. So meeting 2, the goal was to narrow it down to 2 to 3 viable scenarios. We did get down to 3 viable scenarios in meeting 2. And meeting 3, we were to select the path forward. Next slide, please. So in meeting 1, like I said, we really went through why we were there and establishing that framework. Kind of a getting to know you session, getting to know the report a little bit, and then making sure that we had a really clear path forward. Next slide. So in meeting 1, we went through an overview of the site and its constraints. So like Steve said, the site is 80 acres, but there were really only 3 areas where any sort of development could happen. So you have the DPW area, approximately 4 acres, the DPW where the iron rail building is. You've got about 6.3 acres of soccer fields right now, and then you've got about 6.55 acres up adjacent to the cemetery. Next slide. So like Steve said, again, this master plan, it was really told to this group that we prefer to really go by this master plan, which was a very big planning process that was agreed upon by the town. And so a lot of things that we were looking at was to create some tax revenue, a tax base in town, prioritize commercial development if possible, and diversify housing. And then we also have this open space and rec plan that this area has a system of trails already in place. And so that open space and rec plan, one of the action items is actually to expand that and prioritize active recreation. So active recreation would be something like the soccer fields staying and protecting the biodiversity of the area. Next slide. So currently, how we use this area, like I said, is DPW. There were in the plans some thought of moving DPW, and as a board, you have already said that that's fiscally not an option to do. And so the DPW, our assumption is, will stay. And then that softball field behind there, there is no opportunity for development there. It's so close to wetlands. The only development that could really be there is something like the solar array, which is a great financial benefit to the town and also for the environment. So we knew that those options were off the table looking at this. There's the Boy Scout barn there, the iron rail building, the soccer fields, and then up in the top right corner, there's the cemetery. Next slide. So Rich Sousa, our DPW director, and I spent a lot of time kind of envisioning, before we move forward, what he and DPW would need in the future. So we wanted to make sure that we weren't constraining DPW in any way. You can see, let me get this, right here would be a great place for a future admin building, which is needed. And so also, if we lost the facility garage that is behind the iron rail building, if there was some sort of development there, then there would be a spot here to put that. So DPW, looking to the future, years and years ahead, think that this would be a good plan. So we'd want to make sure that we kept a little bit of this area beyond the road to make sure that that's available for DPW in the future. Next slide, please. Steve already went over the financial position. So we know that we're netting in about $110,000 a year with the $600,000 rehab cost. A 20-year loan at 4% would be about $441,000 a year to the taxpayers. And that's $2.8 million of that is interest. And so that would change the picture from netting $110,000 to having an expense of $332,000 a year to rehab the building. Next slide. So this was actually a fun part of meeting 1 is, you know, I went through basically what I just said to you. We didn't start looking at any of the scenarios yet, but we threw out words of how we were feeling like this should go. You know, words such as financial value, recreation is important. And I was typing them as everybody was was saying everything. And it came pretty clear pretty quickly that the group agreed upon, there were really 7 strategies that kind of came out of this. And so this we had talked about. I mean, I fancied it up after, but we had put things in different buckets of this is what we want to have as a criteria moving forward when we look at each of these strategies. So I thought these were really strong. The first one is the fiscal sustainability and revenue. So does this generate revenue, reduce liabilities? Does this help the town fiscally? Number 2, compatibility with existing uses. So we know that DPW is going to stay. We know there's going to be a solar array. If we keep the fields, the other areas, is it compatible with the uses that are already there? Community benefit and town needs was a big one. A lot of people supported recreation on the site, both gymnastics and soccer. The open space and trails and historic preservation did come up often. Number 4 is my favorite, feasibility. Could it actually happen? Are we gonna zone for a Six Flags? It's probably not gonna happen, right? So is this actually feasible? And near to dear to my heart was the environmental aspect of this. Is it a sustainable, environmentally friendly aspect? What are the traffic implications and infrastructure implications? The 6th was risk in long-term flexibility. So we want to minimize risk, right? So we want to make sure that this is an outcome that financially and operationally minimizes risk. And last but not least, strategic long-term value. So looking at our master plan, looking at the vision of the town, does this create long-term value? It was very important to not look short-term and say, yes, this benefits Wenham today. Look long-term and make sure that there is a long-term value. Next slide, please. All right, so then we got into meeting number 2, and we basically did 4 things in that meeting. The first thing that we did was review each scenario. When we were at the first meeting, there were other scenarios that came up that were outside of the best use study. And so I thought it was important to continue that discussion along in meeting 2. And so we added those in to the second meeting. Also, we discussed the impacts of Penguin Hall. We know that there's probably going to be some sort of 55-plus community developed over there, so we discussed the implications of that parcel of land that's across the street. And then the goal was to pick 2 to 3 scenarios to move on to meeting 3. Next slide, please. So this was our handy-dandy spreadsheet. Everybody got one of these. And basically, we have on the left-hand side the evaluation criteria. All right, and that everybody had said, yes, this is the evaluation criteria that we'll use. And then you can see up here each scenario. So how do you feel about continued use? So basically, what we did is we went through and we scored all of these 7 criterias based on each scenario. And the scoring guide down here either was, I'm going to give it a 3 because it's really strong in that category that we're scoring. I'm going to give it a 2. It's mixed. It's not horrible. It's not great. Or I'm going to give it a 1. It's weak. So something like continued use would have probably, a weak fiscal criteria. So number 1. Maybe it would have more community benefit. And maybe that would be a 2, So we went through each scenario. I explained what each scenario was for each of these, and then everybody on their own, not working in groups, collect on their own, did their own sheet. Next slide, please. That right there eliminated a lot of options right away, which was really, really great. Once we did that exercise, I think people really, in their brains, knew kind of where they were going, because we were able to really get that decision-making criteria. When you score it, you can mentally kind of see, where your thought process is going. So options that we're able to eliminate is continued use, so doing nothing, the working group does not suggest. Also, the $6 million in capital improvements was taken off the table right away. Option 1 is basically right here, okay? So this is the iron rail building would be gone, and it would be 2 single-family homes. This is our conventional zoning in Wenham. And the medical facility that we had talked about in meeting 1, it was actually a great idea brought up by one of the members because of the potential for a 55-plus community over across the street, but there was not a lot of appetite during the second meeting for that to continue, so we took that off the table as well. Next slide, please. All right. We also took off any sort of lower density scenarios. So basically, this flexible development with, 3 different structures with 4 homes in it on 20,000 square foot lots. There wasn't enough density for the group. The group had an appetite for higher density. Same here, not enough density. This one with the 17 units in the senior housing, there was a lot of talk about that there is a lot of senior housing in town already, and maybe that wasn't the way to go by the time they were talking in meeting 2. Next slide. We also did talk about what if we put the independent living overlay district over at Iron Rail and called it a day. That would mimic what is over at Penguin Hall currently. This is a plan that was given to us by Cabot, and Forbes. It's no longer relevant, but I just put it in as this was something that maybe could have been done over on the Iron Rail side, and there was no appetite for this as well. Next slide, please. A very interesting thing that happened in meeting 2 was that one of the working group members came in and introduced this idea of a ground lease, which are long-term lease options for the site. Basically what this does is the town retains ownership of Iron Rail. We don't have to finance it anymore. We don't have to do any of the construction. We don't have to operate and maintain the project. All we do is do the lease for 50 years, 100 years, whatever we decide, and then we can write an RFP for a developer of some sort to come in and create some sort of recreational type commercial area in the spot. So that was very interesting to most of, or every single member. The revenue for this would be a yearly ground payment lease payments. So the developer would be giving us lease payments every year. Property taxes from all the commercial business. If there was a restaurant or something of that sort, there's potential for meal taxes, potential for more employment in the area and more local spending in the area. And the biggest thing of this is that it retains the value, the asset value there. This was 100% approved by the whole committee or working group. Next slide, please. All right, so outcomes of meeting 2. So there are 3 outcomes. If you look, each line is the outcome for the site. So on the first one, they really liked over here a gymnastics restaurant commercial kind of thing with the ground lease. The soccer stayed, and in area 3, maybe some sort of recreation facility, like one of those big bubbles or something. The second option was the gymnastics restaurant commercial at site 1, soccer site 2, and then housing up in site 3. And then the third option was housing at site 1, site 2, gymnastics and soccer. So on the plan, the best use plan up here is where the suggestion would be to put the gymnastics area. It would fit right in that little 2-acre parcel. And then at site 3, a recreation facility. So At that moment, most of everybody was thinking preserve with the leasing option, recreation. Be really great to have some sort of restaurant or some sort of commercial opportunity there. Next slide, please. So then we get to meeting 3, and the group concluded that a hybrid approach was the way to go. So there is no way to do, an ILOD zoning where we can just take one zoning and just put it right on top of this. They wanted to do more of a hybrid approach. Next slide, please. So site 1, the recommendation is for commercial recreational ground lease. So the working group unanimously said that the lease was the way to go, and that the potential uses in the RFP should lean more towards local indoor recreation or gymnastics, sports-related facilities, restaurants, and other complementary commercial activities. I am hoping for a spa that I can go to after work, but we'll see. And like I said, it was the favorable approach because of that control of the strategic asset, saving this asset, but still being able to have a great business go in there. Next one. Number 2, for now, they said retaining the soccer fields was the recommendation. I like this because in the future, site 1 and 2 connect, and if the town owns both of those assets, this is the most valuable parcel right here, right? It's right on the street. There's the most room right here for development, and then there can potentially be development at site 1 in the future. The thought is to retain both of these because looking ahead, which was one of our decision-making criteria, we need to really think of, is there a need maybe for public safety to be over there at some point? Is there a need for, in 50 or 60 years for town, we've outgrown town hall and it needs to go there at some point. So it was a great opportunity to keep both of those sites still in Wenham's hands, making sure that we're following the master plan with the active recreation, making sure we're following the master plan with the commercial and tax base. So that was site 2 and site 3.
Just a question back
Yes.
on 2.
Yep,
That corner on Rubley Road,
yep, right here.
yeah, is that all wet?
It is.
Okay.
Yep. Next slide. Site 3. So when you really think about it, I think that when you think about selling a property like this, you get that great cash influx. And when we were working as a working group, that was something to consider, is if we're going to lease this other part of the property, we're not going to get that, first cash influx. This 6 acres right here was recommended to be sold for housing. You can go to the next slide. There were 3 options that the working group came up with, and one of the options was a Chapter 40Y starter home district or something similar, and I'll explain what that is in a minute. Flexible development, but a higher density flexible development up there. Or third and final choice would be the senior housing overlay kind of development. Next slide. So in March of 2026, Massachusetts passed this 40Y, which is the zoning tool, basically. Wenham currently allows single-family homes on 40,000 square feet. So what that does, because costs keep rising of land, of parcels, developers have to make bigger homes to recoup the funds of the constructed costs and more profit. For example, we have a new subdivision, Lily Lane. There are 2 homes on this. One, Lily Lane, is a 4-bedroom home, 4,628 square feet, and it just sold in March for $2.275 million. So our current zoning, well, actually, let me tell you, the next one, 2 Lily Lane, just sold the other day for $2.3 million. What 40Y does is it gives municipalities financial incentives to zone for these more attainable house ownerships. Next slide. So this is an example right here of Lily Lane. Cedar Street is one of our scenic roads. It's a gorgeous street. We all know that. They have little lots on a lot of Cedar Street. See, 10,000 square foot lot, 13,000, 13,000, 11,000, 11,000. Our current zoning requires this. Next slide. All right, so what is Chapter 40Y? Basically, the state said we need this middle income housing. It has to happen. And so we're going to pay communities some sort of incentives to try to zone for these areas. And so basically, they're starter homes, 1,850 square feet max. My suggestion would even be to make smaller ones so they're even more accessible. But half of the homes have to be 3 or more bedrooms, and 10% of the homes have to be affordable. But the financial incentives when you do it, depending on what you zone, the state will pay you for doing this zoning in this area. And then once things are actually constructed, they'll give you a density bonus payment of $3,000 per new unit. This is not going to make the town rich, but it is a nice little incentive, and they also supply incentives for the developer as well.
Well, you're also going to increase our tax base,
You got it. Yep.
which is more important than a one-off payment.
Yep. It has both. It's nice. The money received, there are some stipulations that it has to go towards planning, infrastructure. There, you can't put it towards, some other, maybe building a library or something. It has to be certain things. So there are some restrictions. Next slide. No, you can go to the next slide. We kind of talked about that. So this is an example. In the master plan, it talks a lot about sustainability. In these 40Y communities, EOHLC allows us to have sustainability standards and design standards, right? So we could make an RFP that says, hey, we want low impact design. These are not unusual things anymore that developers run away from like they used to. They're actually pretty standard. The building code, especially with energy, has really caught up. And so this is not an unusual thing where you're asking for the moon in your RFP and you won't get anybody to bid. And we do have examples of communities. There's a beautiful community in Newburyport, Mass. That's a sustainable community that we could actually do a field trip to sometime if we wanted to. But so I just put on my engineering hat and looked at that parcel 3, looked at the topography, what we'd need for septic, walkable paths, and figured at the max, probably we could maybe get 20 houses up there. I couldn't do any perk testing, of course, but we might be able to get 20 starter homes up there. These would be probably 17 market starter homes and 3 affordables, and it would probably be about 10 2-bedrooms and 10 3-bedrooms. The target market here are people that either are downsizing, so the people that are in the Lily Lane homes that want to stay in Wenham but want to downsize into a really nice house, or starter families, the people that are about to have kids or have a baby or 2, and they'll maybe buy their forever home in 5 or 6 years. So that's what this is geared towards. So this would be 4 homes an acre. And they're considered cluster cottage kind of homes. So you would see the homes, there'd be high ceilings, and there'd be lots of light, big windows to make the smaller homes seem bigger. Next slide. The next option, the second best, I would say, is this flexible development. The reason why flexible development works on this parcel is it's a bigger parcel, so you can get more in. So the working group said, no, we don't want it down by the iron rail building in Site 1 because we can only get like 3 of these in here. But, if we could get 48 units, this might be, another one. So you can still zone for those sustainable, keeping along with the master plan, the sustainable community, but then also have, a higher density. So there could be about 48 buildings, I'm assuming, up here. And, next one. The last recommendation was the senior housing overlay, so this would be the same unit, but senior housing only. Next slide. I'm almost done, I promise. So yes, just an overview. The working group supported the long-term municipal ownership, the exploring a long-term ground lease for Site 1 and retaining Site 2, the soccer fields, and then evaluating disposing of the Site 3 with the diverse housing. Next one. So yeah, so there's the working group. Maybe there's not 25 there, but there was a good amount of people. Almost every department was represented. Lots of boards and committees were represented, and a resident was represented. Next one. All right, so this is great, but where do we go from here? So tonight would be great to receive some input from you. We do have some time limitations, so I would say we would probably want to go and get these parcels appraised again because we have changed the plan. So we need to know the value of what we're talking about, especially with the ground lease option. Open a community open house in September. Don't know if we could figure that date out now or we can work on that, but it would be great to gather more public feedback on this. And I don't want to put pressure on you, but in order to get zoning through, we would need your final decision by October 6th. And that is because the planning board will have to start by October 14th. They're meeting in October to get these zoning changes through. I do have a handy-dandy spreadsheet that will show you guys all the work it takes to do a zoning regulation change. There needs to be a lot of a time for this for the planning board to get through this process. And so we do have about 2 months to figure this out. And also refer the financial analysis of this to the finance committee. It would be great to get their review and input as well. And that is it.
Great, thank you, Kate.
Thank you. Thank you. I have to tell you, now it's starting to get hot in here, so I'm like, I'm sweating.
So I just,
Hold on
okay.
a second. I just want to give the Iron Rail Commission an opportunity, if you'd like to make a comment or question, and then we'll turn it to the select board.
We were involved in this, so we're not going to take a position.
Thank you. All right, Peter?
I think it's great. I'd always been pushing to try and get some commercial back on Site 3, but housing's even better. And if you do middle starter homes, I mean, I'm kind of amazed that the legislature actually did something smart.
Yeah. I actually talked to the gentleman who's running this over at EOHLC, and he said he's talked to a few communities. It's so new. No one's done it yet. It'd be really cool if we were the first ones.
I love it. I think it's really great. And it's a state program that really is going to make a difference locally.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, thank you first to the Iron Rail Commission. I know you've been working on this for a long, long time, and I certainly support the important thing of going the ground lease route. That provides us long-term, really long-term options down the line in case something really comes along. So I think ground lease is certainly the way to go on the Site 1 and 2. So I think as we sort of decided before, certainly we have such an investment in DPW, the water tank there, that's immovable. So I should think that we just need to make sure, as you said, DPW has given us a very thorough long-term plan as to what their needs are going to be. I should think we need some sort of screen or buffer between that section and any other development, given that. But certainly like the idea of the middle-income housing in there. And just a couple of details. I think we just need design-wise to make sure that we have appropriate entrance into the cemetery when everything is said and done, and also that we take into consideration long-term support for the Scout Barn or some replacement for that as well.
Yes, and I do have to say the Scout Barn was almost taken out of the study because it was considered, it's in a wetland right now, so it can't legally be repaired. So it would have to be moved. So that's something to consider.
But certainly, I think too, we may get further information. I understand the Penguin Hall auction is maybe September 2nd. So we might have news there before our select board meeting, the first one in September, which gives some guidance as to what we might expect occurs over at Penguin Hall. And certainly if the previous things that we saw about Penguin Hall come about, then that certainly might support some sort of commercial on Site 1 that ties in both recreational and, as they say, the recreational / cafe, whatever options. So thank you to the working group for all that.
Well, and also
support.
if we put a bunch of houses on Site 3,
Yes.
I mean, again,
And two, I think you need to remember too that just down the road is Gordon College that really's never had a off-site commercial options available.
And the Site 3, the housing, already has trails accessible to Site 1. So there's that passive recreation as well.
great stuff.
No, I as you noted, Deirdre and I were part of the working group, and I fully endorse the recommendations. I think that 40Y is an exciting possibility for Site 3, and I also just want to, commend you, Kate, for putting together a process that I think is sort of a textbook example of how to do this. It was a analytical framework that you set up, that you walked through, that kept us focused and on task, but it also really got us into the details. And at in meeting 3, we had such a clear understanding of the different components of things that we mixed and matched a little bit and took what the group thought were the best parts of certain scenarios and certain parts of the matrix. And I think everybody in the group was really, well, it was essentially unanimous in terms of where we ended up, even though there's some wiggle room in terms of what exactly the housing might be on Site 3. So I think this is great. The only thing I would say about suggested next steps is I personally don't think that we need to have a large public forum in September. I was a big advocate for having the working group because it had been about 2 years since the public process 2023 that you laid out. But I think we've had many opportunities for input. The working group itself was a cross-section of the community, including non-elected or appointed officials. So I'm a little bit concerned about the sequence and the pace, and I wouldn't want to have a public forum that tried to sort of go back to square one or reinvent the wheel on certain things, especially when there will be plenty of public meetings just by virtue of the permitting and zoning and approval process, planning board, town meeting, and so on. That's my personal opinion, that we don't really need to do point 3 at this point, but I might be a minority view on that.
I was trying to figure out to do a charrette that day, but I can hold off. It's fine.
Well, let's put a pin in that for a moment. Thank you, Ben. I want to give Finn a chance. Finn?
Well, this is all, I love the whole process, and I really liked also that you started with the whole idea of a decision matrix and deciding what was most important, and I think that was a really great step to help kind of focus the group. I I really appreciate the time you've put into putting together the presentation, all 25 people there, and then also, this, the deck that you've made here is really informative, and I thank everybody involved. It's been great. Thanks.
Thank you, Finn. I'm going to echo 95% of what Ben just had to say, particularly the comments about Kate. It was an exceptionally well-run process.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciated. It was extremely efficient. We appreciate everyone who participated. It was a very collegial, professional, good discussion, and I think it was pretty unanimous by the end. I do agree that the lease option is definitely preferred, and preserving the town's long-term options is absolutely preferred. I guess there's the caveat is that's wonderful to the extent that a developer is willing to work with that, right? And if there is not someone who is willing to work with that, it may not be feasible. So it comes back to the feasibility we talked about at the beginning, just to put that out there. I am personally a big fan of the housing plan. I think the Chapter 40Y is just terribly exciting, and I think that fills a huge gap, as Kate mentioned, that came up repeatedly in the master plan with needing affordable housing stock in town for many groups, as Kate mentioned, including younger people who can't afford to live in town, pretty much. There's very few places to live if you're in that demographic, as well as all the ones Kate mentioned. I am just going to disagree with Ben on the public forum, because although there were many public forums and meetings and so forth along the way, I think this has been an extended process, and I do think we need to have a communication that people can participate in and allow them to make points. I mean, Gary just brought up a couple of interesting points. There may be other things that people come up with. I agree with Ben that this is not to take it to ground zero, not to scrap all the work that's been done, but to fine-tune things that we may not have thought of or seen. So that's the one place where I'm going to disagree. Gary?
Question for Steve, a marketing, or not marketing, but valuation of ground lease valuations, is that something we can do in-house, or don't? So.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, so that would, with commercial appraisal, that would require us to probably, well, I guess you could run a number of scenarios, but define exactly what the space would be used for. So they could come up with rent schedules and then capitalize that. It's an income capitalization valuation. But I think that with the appraisals, I think that, it would be helpful to get them done, so we kind of know what we're working with. But I think that we could wait on those until next year, so that we could fund them, we could plan for them and budget for them, which they're not budgeted for this year, and move forward with zoning, like assuming that the uses are acceptable. And as Deirdre said, if the ground lease proves to be not feasible, doesn't necessarily change the use, right? So the use is supported whether it's ground lease or purchased, I'm assuming. So the zoning would be the same. And so we could move forward with the zoning proposal, right? So the select board would just have to work to get to a point where it's comfortable recommending to the planning board that, hey, we would like to zone, or maybe, we would like to zone for X, Y, and Z in parcel 1 and X, Y, and Z in parcel Great BC in parcel 3. And then the planning can start their zoning process, so that we can align with the hearings and statutory requirements they have to meet leading up to town meeting, as far as like posting deadlines and advertising and meetings that they have to hold with, I think, any zoning changes. But all that's to say that, all that can be done without appraisals, right? I mean, I think at the end of the day, what it's worth is what it's worth. It's ultimately avoiding or getting out from under the potential financial burden of having to remedy the aging structure there and be the landlord. I think in any scenario, it's more financially advantageous to the community than owning it outright and leasing the space. So, that could wait.
Is there any public comment at this time?
Sure.
Hi, my name's Rich Healy, and I run the Iron Rail Gymnastics Academy. I've been doing that for a long time in town, and although I don't live in Wenham, I consider myself part of the town. I've probably spent the majority of my waking hours for my entire adult life here. So I was at the master plan meeting. I was at all of the Dodson and Flinker meetings. Couple of the things that I wanted to touch on was, in the master plan, part of the strategy that was stated was to promote and sustain small locally owned businesses, which we are one. So I think we would fall under that. And then to rezone residentially zoned areas for existing businesses, to allow for expansion of existing businesses, which I think would clearly fall under that. And that, as you know, that's zoned residential over there right now. One of the other things was, I know in 2017, that building was recommended by the Mass Historical Society as a potential historic district over there. I don't know whatever came of that, but anyhow, I guess most of what came out of the Dodson and Flinker report that was encouraging to me and encouraging to us was that gymnastics was one of the things that people wanted to see there. And I would make the case that it's not just gymnastics. An Italian restaurant is not Olive Garden. Like, we're actually part of the community. So all of our coaches, I used to coach the high school gymnastics team. I was the original coach of the high school gymnastics team when we first got it started. So I've been a part of the community for a really long time. We would love to stay in the community. The proposal of doing a long-term land lease that is being set forth for a small business does not really make a lot of sense to do something like that, to put in a huge amount of, a huge amount of money, huge amount of financial, big financial on the line, to be able to do that. And to do a long-term lease is more something that I think a corporation would come in and do, a private equity firm would come in and do. There's a huge, and I forwarded to most of you, I think, there's a huge push in youth athletics right now for private equity firms to take over youth sports. It's happening in every sport. It's happening in gymnastics. It's happening in lacrosse. It's happening in every youth sport now. Programs are being bought out by private equity firms. And one of the things that I think attracts people to Wenham is its small town feel and things like that. And as somebody who, whatever goes on in there, I'm sure the town wants to have a good neighbor. And I think that we've shown over the years that we are a good neighbor in town. And we would like to stay. We're open to a lot of different scenarios to do that. But I think the ground lease that is being set forth, I think, is something that would attract somebody that looks at that as a balance sheet item and not as an investment in the community, which is what we would hope to do. That's it. Any questions for me?
Yeah, don't go away yet.
Sure.
I just had one question. Thank
Yeah.
you for those remarks, and thank you for the materials that you sent. Insofar as the town select board and other, the Iron Rail Commission and the decision makers in town government, would want to either sell parcel one, site one, or do the long-term ground lease. Under either of those scenarios, you, as a tenant of the building, would have a new landlord. It would either be the owner, private sector owner, or the private sector, maybe private equity or maybe something else, master tenant who would then be subleasing, presumably space. Unless you were the purchaser or the...
That's what I, yeah, that's what I would hope is, I mean, I would like to be in a position to purchase that, I could, the town's problem, as I see it with, and, I mean, Kate did an awesome job with throwing all this stuff together, with the housing and with soccer fields and all that stuff, but what I see that keeps coming up, and I've heard it come up for a lot of years now, because I've been there for a lot of years, is, well, that building is gonna be an ultimate cost to the town.
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to solve that situation by taking the building off the town's hands and to do some type of development. Even in talking, what I would like to do, and I've kind of talked to some different people, and there's some stuff in the Dodson and Flinker report. What we would like to do is a larger building for gymnastics, maybe keep the current building. I was under the impression that it was a historic building, and the town wanted to keep it, in its current state, obviously updated. But yeah, I mean, we would like to do that and make an investment in the town versus, versus somebody else coming in to do it, which I think would be the way that a land lease is set up is more for somebody that's going to look at it as a line item on their balance sheet and not, I mean, we've donated over the years tens of thousands of dollars to the community in terms of free gymnastics lessons for kids that can't afford it, in terms of, free rent to the high schools for running the gymnastics program when it first got started. The first 5 years of the program, we didn't charge any rent back to the school, which nobody does that. We're still at less than half of what the YMCA charges Beverly High School for the same amount of hours to do the same thing. So, I mean, I guess my point is we're invested in the community. I mean, I think a lot of people here have had their kids in the program. So, I mean, I know that Mr. Clay, I think your daughter was in the program at one point?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, are you feeling threatened?
No, I'm not feeling threatened. I'm hoping to be a part of the process going forward, I guess. So that's.
But I think you raise an important point, right? Because if I hear you correctly, this idea of the land lease would not be feasible financially for someone such as yourself, who is not a private equity, private corporation type. Is that correct?
Yeah.
But the purchase, the outright sale of the land could be potentially feasible.
Yes. Yes.
And then just to piggyback on that, in terms of financial feasibility, I think what we hear you saying as well is that you feel like your business and business model might be financially disadvantaged if the town as landlord is replaced by a private sector landlord that isn't you and your company, that makes probably substantial improvements to the building, presumably would seek much higher rent than the town seeks from you currently. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that's also part of your concern.
Yeah. I mean, my ultimate concern is that my ultimate goal, I guess, would be to make a long-term investment in the town.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of benefits everybody, that benefits the town, benefits the taxpayers of the town and benefits the kids of the town, which is something that we've been doing for a long time. Anything else? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's important input.
Yes.
All right,
Great job, Kate.
Thank you.
I do think that point, that the land lease versus selling a portion of the property outright does still need some continued thinking.
So any particular action item tonight that we may need a vote on or give informal direction back to Kate?
Do you want to basically have our agreement for the next steps so that you can move forward?
If we're going to do the September community meeting, I am going to need to know soon so we can get that going, and we need to pick dates.
Well, we should decide now, don't you think?
About the September meeting?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I have sort of a dream about that one. If we do the September community house, maybe we can get Hamilton Wenham News to actually show up and tell the story. Because I was having lunch with somebody today, and I mentioned, yeah, we're going to do some zoning for middle income housing. And the person looked at me like, what? He thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
But so many people don't know because it's only since March.
Yep.
Yes, and I do feel confident that it probably will be in this week's paper.
Yeah.
I'm guessing, but yes, I think it would be important for them to be present for that as well. I mean, I've already stated that I'm in favor. Gary?
So if we're going to have one, I should think we may have some news from Penguin Hall early in September. We are scheduled for the 8th and the 22nd for select board meetings in September. So perhaps if we're going to have the forum, that ought to be after the 22nd so that the select board itself could gather up information before that as far as
Penguin Hall,
as well as perhaps some other information, and maybe schedule something that said have HW News in attendance. So maybe the last week of September, if you're going to have one, it would be, I should think, the preferred date.
Kate, how does that sound to you?
Because we certainly would want, if we're going to need to have it before the 6 October semi-deadline here for a decision.
Yep. Are you thinking, what kind of days are you thinking? Weekdays, weekends, nights?
I think
School's going to be back, so I think evenings are going to get you better attendance.
Mm-hmm. So that last week I can do you mean the 20, maybe we could bring up a calendar?
So, yeah, we meet the 22nd.
What's the following Tuesday after that?
You guys are all saying
29th?
the 22nd in August?
No. September.
Oh, the 29th of September.
Yeah.
I could do that.
Yeah.
And here?
Why are you doing it so late in September?
Well, I think by then, they have some information from Penguin Hall. Even if Penguin Hall auction is delayed once again, we would have updated status on what Penguin Hall has. And I think perhaps the staff needs some time to go out and, consider the other information that we might gather in there. As far as, I should think we need to really look at the map if we're going to do this zoning district, not exactly, but, how many acres are we going to set off the cemetery as to fixed boundaries on that we ought to look at. If we're going to have the recreational in the Sector 3, are we going to set aside 1 or 2 acres non-housing for recreational facility or whatever to do? So I'd like to see some further information on that.
So I get it.
Yeah.
And I see we are going to have a select board meeting on October 6th.
Right, which is the deadline by which Kate would like us to make a final decision. I think that if we are to have a public forum on September 29th or any time around that time, that ideally before going into that public meeting, that there would be a vote of the select board, if the select board decides that it wants to vote this way, and maybe of the planning board by then as well, endorsing the recommended package that has come out of the working group. Because as I see it, I mean, there are a lot of important details to be worked out, and there's flexibility even within the recommended concept of what to do on the 3 sites. But I would want myself to be able to go into that meeting presenting this as a well thought out proposal that has been endorsed by the people working on it and by the leading boards in the town. And yes, getting feedback, but within that framework. Because I think if it's more of an open-ended thing on September 29th, then there's a much higher likelihood that by October 6th, we're not really in a position to make a final decision. And I think there's been so much work and thought and collaboration that's gone into where we are that I think that I'd like our board to, go on record endorsing the recommendation of the working group and maybe asking the planning board, which obviously had at least 2 of its members in the working group, to do that.
So perhaps you see, perhaps it'd be better to have the forum after October 6th then, have the select board vote and then present it to the community as far as, a general decision on the...
Yeah, either that or just, I think we could endorse the working group proposal, which is not, not so detailed that I think we could do that and then get the public feedback on October 6th. And like the point that you raised earlier in this meeting, Gary, about wanting to ensure that there's always going to be proper access to the cemetery and buffering and things. There may be things along those lines that come up at the public forum, but are within the overall framework of what we want to do. And then those things could be, discussed on October 6th, where we give a final decision, which would include the zoning changes that are needed. So I could see it going either way, that we vote now or before the 29th to endorse the concept and the recommendations, and then on October 6th, take on board comments that we receive.
Well, maybe we could ask Madam Chair to have the 22nd as the decision point on a general recommendation, and then forum, and then have the 6th October as a more detailed vote.
Agreed.
Sounds like a plan.
Sounds like a plan. Finn, any comments?
So I'm looking at the calendar. I think I'm a little worried, like you said, about how late in September that is. Of course, I'd love to have more information about how Penguin Hall is going, but I'm not sure that that's going to kind of impact, a presentation of this working group. Knowing what that went for is useful for like an appraisal point of view. But we kind of know that it's going to be senior housing, and we know what it's likely to be. So I'm not sure that changes enough to want to delay, but I'm happy to go along with whatever schedule we can get the most people to come out and listen to the story.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that, actually. I'm wondering, it does not have to be a Tuesday either. What if we did something the 16th or the 17th and have the 22nd to discuss the feedback? There's still space, basically, to fine-tune.
I like that idea.
Or Tuesday the 15th, you don't have a meeting that day, right? You have it, this and this, so we could do this one?
We could, yes, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing,
Might be out of town on the 15th. I think 16th or 17th.
Are you-
Better for me, but
you hear those days?
I am on the 16th.
Okay.
Margaret, when is
Go for
planning board and
16.
when's?
They're on the 9th of September.
They're at the 9th. Okay.
Affordable Housing Trust is the 16th of September.
Do you think they could move that date?
Another room.
And what about the 17th? Was that,
They normally do Wednesday, the third Wednesday of the month, so, but,
so how about Thursday, the 17th? Was that?
so if you want them to move to the 17th?
No, could we do the public forum on the 17th?
I can do the 17th.
That'd be great. That makes me feel better, but 29th was
Making you anxious?
making me nervous.
We don't want that, Peter.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you
You have
all.
what you need?
I do.
Thank you very much, Kate.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate your time.
Okay, that ends the public portion of this meeting for this evening. And I'm going to move to enter us into executive session as follows. Pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A1, to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health rather than the professional competence of an individual, or discuss the discipline or dismissal of, or complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual. We will not return to open session. We will adjourn from the executive session. Do I have a second?
Second?
We'll vote by roll call. Ben?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Gary?
Need to let them stop their meeting, too.
Oh, sorry. Yep, 1 second. Gary?
Yes.
And Finn?
Finn votes aye.
And one pause to allow Iron Rail to adjourn.
Yeah, I make a motion that the Iron Rail Commission meeting be closed. All in favor? Aye. Yes, that's
Thank you all for being here this evening. Appreciate it.